Crockett,
Tubbs,
Castillo,
Gina and Trudy.
Zito and Switek.
Together, they are the OCB. They are Miami Vice. And this is the Vice of Miami podcast.
Do you remember the fast cars, flashy clothes, big money, and all of the heavy players on the 1980s most iconic TV show Miami Vice? Then this is the podcast for you.
Join Mark and Tim as we review each season and episode, covering all of the details such as a storyline, stars, music, fun facts and locations, and as well as trivia in which you can participate. Get ready for the Vice of Miami podcast.
Welcome back, Vice fans, to the Vice of Miami podcast for show number 48. Mark and I are always glad you are joining us. We hope you enjoyed our last show covering the season 2 finale of Miami Vice Sons and Lovers. So as always, sit back, relax, grab a beverage, and enjoy the Vice of Miami podcast covering the season 2 recap.
And Tim, I've got an apricot tea here from Adagio Teas. But yes, this is a wrap-up for our season 2 here, and we have a guest, Marina from Vice and Easy podcast.
All right, so in our series finale of season 2, we had a trivia question, and we asked, what was the name of the company that produced the explosives that killed Angelina? And the answer is the E. Grogan and Company out of Chicago, Illinois.
And we'll post that photo in our social posts. So why don't we get into the season 2 recap? And like I said, we've got Marina from the Vice and Easy podcast joining us. We reached out a couple of months ago, long time ago, and to get her ideas of kind of what we covered in season 1 as far as good episode, bad episode, favorite quotes, things of that nature. So the first one we have is best plot line, the best plot line. And I had, now we may agree, we may disagree, but whatever works. The best plot line I have kind of a two-way tie between Bushido, episode 8, and Out Where the Buses Don't Run, episode 3. And I picked that because they pretty much all deal with the past or recent, I guess you could say, lives of each of the main Vice characters, and all are plausible to some extent, but not most of the stories aren't really in all the episodes. So these backstories in these episodes, I thought they formed who they were or why the characters are the way they are. I'd say Out Where the Buses Don't Run was good as far as a good cop essentially losing it, kind of like Evan in season 1.
Marina, you could go ahead.
Thank you. I definitely agree on Out Where the Buses Don't Run. It was a very emotional episode, amazing acting, and kind of getting into how this career leaves so many scars and leaves so much damage. And it is one of the first cop shows, maybe I'm wrong on this, but, other cop shows at the time, I didn't really see this explored. And, now it's a lot different. You have Chicago Fire, you have Law and Order, and they do kind of delve into these issues more. But I really thought that was ahead of its time. And then my other choice, very different. I was kind of torn between Payback, because I really like corrupt feds, because that's a very big theme for Miami Vice, very big overarching theme, and Little Miss Dangerous of someone who, Tubbs wants to protect, but she doesn't want protection. She wants to live her own life. She wants her own agency. She doesn't want to follow her boyfriend. And she just wants to do what she wants to do. And I don't agree with the murders, but I agree with her steadfastness and not compromise.
Do the social work on your own time.
Not bad.
Right.
What you find out
Tim
is
is
that
our de facto Castillo.
Yes, and I love it. And I think, which one was with the corrupt fed? That was Payback. That was when Sonny got in a fight with the DEA. No, it wasn't. That was The Fix with the DEA agent.
Yes.
And Castillo, he punched him out, and Castillo comes out and just gave the longest stare ever for Castillo in the first 2 seasons. He entertains me.
And he didn't have to say anything either.
Yep.
He said
the stare.
He said nothing. He said nothing. My best plot line was back in the world when he was with the reporter, the guy that he was a reporter with. And the reason I said that, and I think it goes to what Marina is saying, is that in some of the older cop shows, like if you go back to even like the original SWAT, they didn't have a lot of character development. And I think that's what you're talking about here, is that there's more character development, more backstory. I know they did it a little bit in Starsky and Hutch, but not as much. They didn't delve into it as much as they did starting with Miami Vice. But this episode gave us a glimpse in Sonny's time in Vietnam that ended up following back to Miami. And it also referenced when he was like at the VA center, it also referenced how badly the Vietnam veteran was treated once they got back in the world. So that's why I made that my choice for a best plot line.
Can I change mine?
Yeah, that's actually a really good choice. That's a really good choice.
Okay. Let's see. Next up, I have best guest star. This one I have Bruce McGill as Hank Weldon in Buses Don't Run, Out Where the Buses Don't Run, episode 3, or Phil Collins in Phil the Shill, episode 11. But I picked Bruce McGill. He's good acting where he turns it on and turns off his normalness and then goes crazy, kind of way out in the deep end here. He wasn't too out there all the time, but he did it just enough. And as far as Phil, as far as a musician turned actor, I think he did a good, solid job. He wasn't really over the top in try to be an actor when he really wasn't an actor, but he did a good enough job. And then maybe I'd have to say also Gene Simmons in episode 1, Prodigal Son. Again, he wasn't really overreaching or trying too hard. He was just being who he was, and I thought he did a good job. Top pick would be Bruce McGill as Hank Weldon. And
Marina?
Thank you. Definitely, I agreed with you on that one. I put 5 different ones, and I made them into different categories.
It's okay.
Selfishly, by looks, I'm going to go with James Remar because as my
buddies,
he's my hunk choice. Yeah, and I love. He's just good in everything he does. I even saw him. I was watching Cruising, the old 1981 film with Al Pacino, and he pops up there, super young, super buff, super tan. I was like, what a charming. And he can always play a jerk well, and he can always play a good guy well. And then for comedic relief, I picked Clarence Thomas III from.
Oh yes,
the
zombie man.
What was the zombie episode called? What was his
Tail
name?
of the Goat.
Tail of the Goat. Yes.
Tail of the Goat, but
Legba.
He was just so funny, and I know it wasn't supposed to be comedic, but I couldn't. And he's just
you got a point there.
Too.
Lincoln in the Mod Squad.
Yep. And I was watching I'm Going to Get You Sucker the other day, and I was like, I forgot he was like the Black Panther character too. I was like, what a funny guy.
Oh boy.
My best guest star, hands down, Phil Collins in Phil the Shill, mainly because I just loved how he inserted himself into conversation and could sell suckers swampland in Arizona.
Oh, exactly. You're right.
There was just how he came into conversation, blah, 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 and then he hooked those. Weren't they doctors and stuff like that? They were all professionals that he just totally duped into everything. And then he ends up at the end as some healing preacher, and Switek blows the TV away. This is for you, Elvis.
What's his name? Pastor Rob.
Yeah, Pastor Rob.
Phil Collins. All right. Next up, we have Best Adversary. And if you remember last season, I had Castillo to Crockett. But this one, I've got very recent John Leguizamo in Sons and Lovers, episode 22. In looking at just, an adversary for Vice itself, and now Tubbs for some reason, again, why Tubbs? He didn't kill his daddy. It was a small role, but big, I would have to say, in Vice terms, only because I liken it to old wounds being opened up again for Vice. Vice thought Calderon was gone and forgotten, put to rest a while ago, but now they've got to deal with him again. So, John Leguizamo, I think it just overshadowed every other episode, but.
Right. Interesting about him too. We've been binge watching again ER. And we're I think we're in season 11 or season 12, and he plays a character in there, an attending physician by the name of Clemente. Yep. So totally different from being Orlando Calderon, because he's kind of really dysfunctional as this attending physician. But yeah, because he's a stand-up comedian, so he kind of he's in between playing a drama and being a comedian, but he has a lot of, for lack of better words, fucked upness about himself, and you can't put that in there. So he just has a lot of dysfunction as this, as a attending physician. So anyway, and Marina, your choice for best adversary.
Ooh, that's a great one because he was incredibly cold. The way that he would just have, spoiler alert, his half sister killed and then have Tubbs thinks that his son is also dead. That is, and he's also very charming and just, again, evil charming, but very charming. Mine, not as exciting. I was thinking, I really liked Charlie Glide because, again, like super charming, super smart too. He was always playing chess with Vice. He was always one step ahead until he wasn't. And I really liked Fuente too, just the way that Fuente was able to yield his power so powerfully and really infiltrate Crockett's life in such a way that like made Crockett go a little bit crazy because he just didn't know what was going on. And again, just like super stylish.
Yes,
again,
that was good.
Another musician turned actor who did a good job. And Callie Bassett was my third choice.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
My best adversary, Michael Richards as a loan shark in The Fix.
Oh,
Simply because it was his pre-Seinfeld days. And I just made him the best adversary just because he's so different than the goofy Kramer. And it also showed that he could play a wide range of characters. You know, he could insert himself into drama as well as, you know, being known for Cosmo Kramer for many years on Seinfeld. So that's the reason why he was my best.
You got me on that too. But I still can't see him as anything other than Cosmo, the ass man. Let's see, most intense episode. I have bought and paid for episode 9. It wasn't really a super, I don't want to say it was a great episode, but I just thought this is where someone other than Crockett and Tubbs finds themselves into the crosshairs of, you know, the pervert's twisted desires. And this is Gina's issue to deal with. You know, was she going to be the next victim? Was it her turn to be drawn into the seedy world maybe as a victim and not just, you know, the decoy prostitute that, you know, she started out to be? But I just thought this was more of, you know, the sub characters, the sub co-stars, you know, someone other than Crockett or Castillo or even Switek and Zito. So, you know, it was time for her to, I guess, get her dues, I guess you could say.
She picks up more probably in the next season. Marina, what?
Let's bring the mood down a little bit. I chose Junk Love because that unfortunate twist at the end just left a really dark mark when you watch the episode again, because I had to watch the episode 3 or 4 times to grab all the media. And I was just like, God, it just gets worse every time you watch it because you know what's really going on. And just that really in your face, like horrific incest relationship and abusive relationship just really put a downer on my week. And I just remember it was a couple episodes in a row. It was like 1 month of like just very depressing episodes. Like, oh my God. I was like, Phil the Shill could not come fast enough.
Exactly. I think I remember your episode on this too. It was quite intense for you, if I'm remembering it correctly.
No, it was very intense. And it was just, you just feel so bad for this woman. And you see both sides of the opinions because you have, you know, Crockett and Tubbs are kind of divided. Do we feel bad for her? Do we not feel bad for her? Because they just thought she was a kept woman. Then when the twist is introduced that it's her father, and then just everybody's stomach just churns, and this poor girl, and at least, you know, she is finally able to break free of that, but you'll never really get rid of that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I'm not gonna watch that one again. That's lost.
For me, the one that resonated the most so far in the first 2 seasons was Evan, only because I was touched by suicide of a colleague. So it and that was before Mark came on the fire department. So that really struck home to me. But that was a sick. The Junk Love was a good choice, Marina, because that was a really sick episode. My most intense episode, Out Where the Buses Don't Run, and that, you know, the entire time you have Weldon running Crockett and Tubbs on a wild goose chase for a missing gangster, only to find out that he killed him several years ago. So he was definitely out where the buses don't run, just he was stressed to the max, and he had a breaking point, probably a nervous breakdown, but he was able to function through that and really put up this facade that drew Crockett and Tubbs not even putting him on their radar. So it was just, for me, especially at the end there where he's going in there busting up the wall, and then there's the gangster. My choice, Out Where the Buses Don't Run.
Great choice. Yeah, your episode on that where you explain what happened with your colleague was also really touching.
Yeah, that was, and it's that's why I do what I do now.
Yeah.
These days, where it was part of my journey, and that's what can you say? That was it.
Well, those type of episodes make it real for people too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yes.
Some of the stuff is outlandish and out there, but this stuff like that kind of makes it real. So that's what makes it good. Okay, what's next do we have here? Why did they write this episode?
Oh boy, I know which. I know which one you're.
We may
I know.
all be in agreement.
I'm very curious. I think we are probably.
I think we are.
Needless to say, Tale of the Goat.
That's right. It sucks.
Come on, a drug-induced, unmonitored coma for how many hours, how many days? Excuse me. No, I just, there's some plausibility in most of these episodes, but this one is just way too out there to be believable. I have my runner-up, definitely Miami. I just didn't like it. It was just bad. I'm going to keep it simple, just bad.
Hot take on Definitely Miami. Interesting.
Oh, I get what you did there. Hot take. That was the episode where it was hot. Good one.
Ooh, I went a little differently. I love Tale of the Goat just because I think it was just because of Clarence Thomas III.
Oh.
Not that I would watch it again on my night off, but I went in a different direction. Florence, Italy, because there was barely any plot, but there were just a lot of montages. It was very 80s in that
nice.
I think 40% of the episode was just footage of racing cars, but they did have some good guest stars.
Right.
But I want to say the worst was One Way Ticket, even though it was full of French Canadians and they were all real French Canadian actors, and they're much better acting in French as opposed to the phonetic English. You could tell they're just learning their lines phonetically because their delivery is so bad.
This was the episode where I believe you put it. She was wearing that toilet seat cover on her dress. The one French, the French investigator.
Oh no, this was the other one. This was the the defense lawyer who is at a wedding where the DA's daughters get shot.
Oh,
and he did too. They all got killed.
Oh, that's right.
Too many French Canadians. That was and the plot, I can barely remember it now. I remember it was the French assassin, and he wanted money to go away, and he basically, the defense lawyer wants to fake his own death.
Right, and he's on an island in the Bahamas or somewhere, right? Yeah. Okay, Mr. Tim.
We all went in different directions here. If you remember, IMDb ratings, Tale of the Goat had a just slightly higher rating than Free Verse.
Oh, that's right.
Oh.
Yeah.
If you remember, we ripped that one apart. When I watched that, I'm doing on DVD, so I'll stop the DVD a little bit to write some notes. But for the most part, I'm like, is this a freaking 2-hour episode? It's dragging on and on. It made no. It was terrible. It was terrible, and you could give me a Rodney Dangerfield on that one too. Sucked.
Oh wait, no, hold on. I've got a better one for you. We'll give you this one here.
Boosh. Remember when I did that?
Okay. Yep. I have that file somewhere, but I got to look for it. Best episode. I've got Sons and Lovers. Again, the old nemesis for everybody pretty much returns allegedly, and not allegedly, but kind of from the grave, at least in his crime and cold-blooded killing son. And now Tubbs is going to have this on his mind, and maybe the Vice crew as well, as we go into next season. So, Sons and Lovers, and I got an honorable mention, Phil the Shill, again, lighthearted, but big in crime story and great comedic relief in Switek and Zito. And not to mention, we interviewed Paul Diamond. That had nothing to do with it. The writer of the episode. Take that, Marina.
Very true. I do not. I'm going to go.
Yeah, but she lives in L.A. She could have access to a lot more than we do. So
That's
watch
true.
it, Mark.
Yeah,
I
that's
can
true.
have them. Yes, I can interview them in my bathroom closet.
In your bathroom closet.
Yes.
Ooh.
Your choice.
No, I've never gone anyone involved in the show. Oh, that's interesting. No, good
Something
for
to
you
work
guys.
on.
'Cause you had that in the first season as well. You got another writer, right? Or
No,
producer?
he just
He reached
he
out to
wrote
you.
he did Evan, right? Was that the one he did?
Yes, he did.
Evan
co-writer
and
of Evan.
Phil the Shill. When he
Nice.
reached out to us by email or through, he started following our page,
Instagram.
I think, because Instagram, what it was, we did question and answers by email, and then he said, I could tell you a little about Evan, but I know more about Phil the Shill, and that's when we had him come on. But he did do Evan, and and that's when I said to him, it hit home for me that episode. So
Cool.
your best episode.
My best episode, I'm going to go a little bit different. I'm going to say Little Miss Dangerous. Great soundtrack, great cinematography, great guest star, big hair, very over the top, very 80s with the live, not really burlesque, not really strip club, super over the top, very not as poignant as other episodes, but that's one that like definitely you could watch again and have fun with it. And I loved the music on that episode.
Good choice. I like that. Can I change mine again?
Mark, I actually agreed with you on this one with Sons and Lovers. It sets up a potential season cliffhanger. At least they give that illusion, and we'll see in coming seasons if Orlando shows up. But John Leguizamo played a great Orlando Calderon. So, and it was a strong finish to this season. It started out strong with the Prodigal Son, and it ended strong. And then everything that was mixed in between. But I don't know if we could find the writers of Freeverse and just tell them, were you on smoking dope or something? Because this is bad. Bad all the way around.
So what would you have changed your top episode, Mark?
I would have actually, you know what? No, I'm going to keep it Sons and Lovers.
Yeah, Sons and Lovers is a great one.
Yeah. I'll keep it. I mean, like you said, it was a strong ending. It was just that Calderon coming back, even from season 1. It's like, oh, geez, can we never get away from this schmuck? And now these are some that Marina chose for us to pick out. And worst song choice, either a bad song or a song that's used in a brutal way. I'm going to go with Little Miss Dangerous by Ted Nugent. Good-ish episode, but this was during Jackie's and Kat's dance at Sex World, and when Jackie was picked up by the John in the blue car. Good song, but just a really odd scene. Dangerous, but it just did not fit for me. They could have done something better.
So I chose Slave to Love because one of my favorite songs of all time, beautiful, haunting, sexy song. And when I first watched the episode, I hadn't seen it in a long time. I want to say like even pre-COVID, I think, because I skipped it when I was rewatching during COVID. And so I was like, oh my God, what a great song. And then you realize after the plot twist that they're playing this at the party at her father's house, Slave to Love, about an incestuous relationship. So that just really kind of like broke my heart, but it was amazing juxtaposition.
For me, I don't really have a choice because I don't remember how the songs were used, either brutal or, just in a bad way. I don't remember. And I think part of that is that when I'm watching episode, I'm really focusing on details and writing stuff, and I'm not really paying attention. I hear the music and things like that, but I'm not paying attention. If I had to pick one that was a favorite song, don't remember the episode. It was early in the season, was Vice, where it would you'd have to listen to it, but it was supposedly in a bar scene. And it was called Vice. It was a rap song.
Oh yeah, that's right. Vice. Look, who was it by, Tim? Oh, it's right on tip of my tongue. It's like early 80s, right?
And it was the early part of the season,
YouTube
right?
it, Marina.
It's not Buddies. It's not Prodigal Son Part 2. It's what are we talking about?
Who the heck was it that did it? But it's somebody and the Furious Five. I can't remember who it was.
Grandmaster Flash.
Grandmaster Mel and the Furious Five.
Thank you.
Grandmaster Flash?
Yeah. He's sometimes known as Grandmaster Mel.
Yeah.
Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. Yeah, Grandmaster.
That's a great song choice.
Vice.
So that would have been that would have been a favorite, but in a brutal way, not like I said, when I'm focusing more on the plot line and not the overall stuff. And besides of which, I could remember something from 50 years ago, but ask me why I walked into the garage. Can't remember. So
the same way.
True.
it's where it's at. That's it for me. Plus, I got PTSD brain, so.
Okay, and cheesiest montage. I'm going to go with Florence, Italy, episode 16, and pretty much the opening scene. The streetwalkers, they were tad obvious. I mean, they're obvious no matter what, but these were just a little bit more tad than a little bit more obvious. And the mom or whoever that was in the bakery smacking her son upside the head, when
Awesome.
he's
Love that.
trying to work his magic, I guess you could say, or get the magic worked on him.
I chose Dutch oven when Trudy is walking along the beach. She's very conflicted because she's technically betraying her boyfriend by not telling him that she's trying to get closer to Adonis. Again, Michael Mann casting when they brought back Giancarlo Esposito for the third time. And I want to say the singer is Amy Grant, and it's just such a great cheesy montage that really gives. I also like that episode too because it was a nice Trudy-centric episode. And yeah, I love a good beach montage.
For me, if you want to call it cheesiest, it's not really. It says the Tubbs and Angelina montage in Sons and Lovers, even though it was a very strong finish to the season, all they did is pretty much a replay of Calderon's return in season 1. And as you said with yours, Mark, they could have done something different there.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say in Sons of Lovers, there's 2 montages, which I liked because at the end, after she dies, they basically replay everything that happened in Sons of Lovers.
In the episode.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe they just trying to fill time.
They were probably trying to save on production costs.
Stretch. We got 3 minutes left. What are we going to do here? Best song? I have Kyrie by Mr. Mister in One Way Ticket. That's when Sego and Marcella at the bar. This is just a quintessential 80s tune. I just love the song, period. They could have put it in any part, in any of the cheesy montages. It was just a great song.
Great choice. I selected You Belong to the City by Glenn Frey just because I listened to that song so much as a teenager. Just like, yeah. And it just takes all the cool parts of Vice at that time. And it was like the season 2 opener, biggest show, on network at that time. It's like, you just could not make a better song.
Marina, I agree with you. You Belong to the City simply because you can never go wrong with Glenn Frey.
Right.
True.
Ever. Absolutely. Best live performance. This was hard to look up. I had to kind of go back, but I kind of picked out El DeBarge in Bought and Paid For episode 9. The songs You Wear It Well and Rhythm of the Night. Rhythm of the Night was big. Obviously, middle 80s there. So El DeBarge, Bought and Paid For.
Great choice. I really liked Trudy's boyfriend. He is a singer in real life. I totally forgot his name. But in the Dutch oven, he has this really powerful song on stage. Basically about like
yes, he did.
Back to your loved one. Yeah.
I went with El DeBarge for sure. Rhythm of the Night.
Okay. Best filming location that no longer exists. How'd you come up with this one?
This one will because my choice. I looked up because I want to go to Miami later on this year, and I was like, I want to go check it out. I was like, it's abandoned.
I'll have to look for it. I have when I went there in 21 with my wife, I have points picked out on a Google Maps. If I could find it, I'll send it to you. A lot, maybe like 10 locations, 10 filming locations.
I have Deerfield Estate. I have the hotel they used in French Twist, the Mayfield. But my choice for Blast from the Past that no longer exists was the Miami Marine Stadium because they actually did have concerts back in the day.
Yes.
So you could sit and look over the water and they'd kind of have like a floating stage. Like that's so cool and so Miami. Built by a Cuban architect. So it has that kind of like brutalist architecture to it too.
I have, OCB is a standard, which doesn't exist, but it was torn down in 2007. It's now a condo tower. But I have, now just go with me, because I know it was a mobile thing, but it was at 235 Ocean Drive in Miami Beach. Annie's Hamburger Stand called the Celebrity Burger in Buddies, episode 5.
Oh, yes.
Great choice.
It's technically it doesn't exist, but it's now where they have, I think it's Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Ocean Park. I know it was a food truck and it wouldn't last, but it looked like it would be good. Some good chow here. I mean, 2 triple burgers dragged through the garden, 2 iced Mr. T's larger, all for $23.50.
And $1984.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And again, I don't have anything here because I focus more on a plot line than stuff like this. And I know, Mark, you
Just
do
go
a
with
lot
OCB
more.
then.
Okay, I'll go with OCB. It's not there.
But yeah, it is kind of hard because, you got to, look the stuff on maps and stuff like that. And sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't there, but you got to get there, Tim. Marina, like I said, when I find the Google Maps.
I'll do that. I'll do that for this next season.
Yeah, because I haven't been since, 2011. I used to go in college, luckily, all the time. My mom used to go to a banking conference down there. So I would hitch along, which was very, very blessed of me. So I would go like every end of semester, like every year. I was like, oh, wow, not going to get that time back. And I would try to find filming locations, but this was pre like Google Maps. It was a lot harder to, go through the message forums and see. So I didn't really get a lot at the time, but yeah. So this time will be a nice, and there's this cute little company on Instagram. I think it's the Classic Miami Walking Tours.
Oh, really?
They go through old filming locations for movies, TV. So they do Burn Notice, Dexter for the first couple episodes, Scarface, and Miami Vice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have to check that out. Okay, I think we covered it, and you've got your best quotes. You want us to rate them and all that? You wanna take this over here?
Ooh, yes. Thank you. I definitely had some good ones. This is hard since we just spoke about Sons and Lovers. This one, just as a gossip queen, this one definitely my favorite in the latter half of the season. This is Crockett having a heart-to-heart with Tubbs after the revelation of Angelina and his quote-unquote son have come back into his life. This is the clip.
Rico, this may be none of my business. If I'm out of line, just say so. But are you sure this kid is yours?
I don't know how loud that was. Sorry for the apology.
We got it.
It's good.
Okay. I was just like, that is just such, and it was funny because earlier at work, we were talking about just like a mutual friend, my coworker, and she's with child. And my coworker straight up asked her if she knew who the father was.
Oh my God.
He's like, nah, we're friends. We can say that. I was, oh my God. So I think that's why it was just like such a, like, kind of, like at the back of your job, just hanging out, talking smack. Then, speaking of Phil the Shill, this was very much a quote of the 80s in this next quote.
Sarah, you were looking at a man with a very nasty habit.
Phil, this is the 80s. Everyone takes drugs.
Yep.
Not wrong.
Not wrong.
True.
This is from the Santeria episode. I believe it was called Whatever It Takes. Whatever. Sorry, that's the Degrassi slogan. Whatever
works.
Whatever works.
This was the wildest fight on the boat between the two guys. And I remember I watched this episode and I put in my notes, wait, did he just say that? And then I went back. I was like, oh, he did just say that in this next clip.
These are cops. They took my son. Nobody touches my family.
You gave them the money, they brought him back. That's business. What do you want? We all have family.
I put family first. I'm not a whore like you, Miranda. Come on.
They kind of sounded like Izzy a little bit.
Right?
A little bit.
I like that one.
Sorry, I forgot what this one was. Oh, it's okay. I got 2 more. Sorry, I don't want to bore you guys, but this, speaking of the French woman wearing the napkin, this next clip.
It's not that complicated, Crockett.
You knew where he was and you didn't talk to us. You didn't talk to us.
There's a difference. Besides, we had already agreed on a plan of action. We were letting Bundy come to us. This was your idea. Zolan did not tell me to go to the hotel to get Bundy. You did it. You almost got blown up. I didn't want you to get blown up, Crockett.
I'm touched.
Her whole...
She said it so serious.
You can't take her seriously because her accent just seems so way over the top, trying to be French. It just
it's
no
so
way.
Bad because you actually have francophone people on that episode, which is why it's even funnier. I was like, you couldn't have got Leonard Cohen.
Yeah, right.
Well, I guess he does speak a little bit of French in the beginning. He doesn't speak any English. This is not my favorite one, but this one I really resonated with. I know it's not your favorite episode, Free Verse, but the reason I love it is because growing up in Canada, especially kind of in the aughts when more stuff would come out, not just on broadcast and but like on the cable channels that we didn't get in Canada. So we could get everything that was on like ABC, NBC. It would just be shown on a Canadian channel. But some of the other ones like VH1, MTV, we didn't get. So I'd always like either miss out or I'd try to find someone who had satellite, or I'd beg my parents to get satellite TV. So when when the poet from unnamed Central American country going through a civil war, is just he keeps talking about TV, and like that's also what I would do every time I come to America. Is like the first thing I would do is go watch TV. And this is the next clip.
Maybe your television is better here than back home.
But yeah, it was just anything to do with the TV, and that's all he wants to do is just watch TV and party. I was like, oh, same. How about you guys? What was your favorite quote of the season?
Well, let me get to. Hold on one second here.
It's Tubbs, Tubbs. Tough, unique, bad, bold, and sassy.
That's the quintessential Tubbs right there. And what's the other one? The other Tubbs part here? One of his famous.
Hey yo, you're out of your jurisdiction, you're out of your league, and you don't live in the neighborhood. So keep it moving.
Chomps. If there's any phrase that's Tubbs is famous for, it's chumps.
Yeah.
I've got another one here, an Izzyism or an Izzy quote.
Hey, this man plunges himself into the murky waters of the underworld to risk life and limb to try to stem the crying flow and keep us all from drowning in a cesspool of lawlessness. Susuria.
Susuria. A little homage to Phil there.
I love it.
And hold on, I got one more. Where'd it go?
So you're at this party with this dude.
His name's David.
Oh, yeah, that's right, David. And there's a lot of weed and blow there. Hell, you can't go to a party in Miami without tripping over it.
Quintessential 80s quote, right?
That's when I think she's massaging his shoulders on the boat, right?
Right, on the St. Vitus dance.
Yeah.
Yep. So those were mine. Tim, what's your low-tech quotes here?
Both you editing people, because I'm not the editor. You went the high-tech route. I have to read. I'm a paper and pencil guy. I'll save the best quote for last, and I'm sure Mark knows what it is. But one of the quotes from Phil Lischel, Phil, you have won a scholarship, a full scholarship to Rayford. That's a prison we've got here, pal. Full ride, probably. And that was Crockett to Phil. Another one.
It was a good one.
He may be out where the buses don't run, but the information is correct. Tubbs speaking about Weldon and out where the buses don't run. From the prodigal son, Crockett, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Colombia, Puerto Rico, Bahamas, Everglades, that I've soaked more swamp than Elvis.
I was going to pick that. I was going to pick that too.
That is true. Yeah, I would just like to see Crockett. I think he does retire. Like, I think he just retires in Florida, but I'm like, he could just use like a nice desert climate,
Yeah.
Arizona, something like Arizona.
Just a nice, dry, temperate.
And my best quote, Sonny Crockett imitating Castile right this face when he said, I know, no heroes.
No heroes.
I was laughing my ass off at this unexpected exchange, but what made it funny is that Castillo said absolutely nothing.
Right. I don't even think he gave him a glare. He did not give you.
No, nothing.
There was no death glare.
Nothing.
I wonder if that was an ad lib too, because it was very accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Tim and I were kind of figuring in that last episode where it was probably in the script, but him actually doing it that way, I bet you it was just ad libbed. It had to have been. I mean, maybe a little dig at Castillo or Castillo. Who knows?
Well, when he first came into Miami Vice after Rodriguez was gone,
right?
There was an interview with, and I don't know if it was you that sent it to me, but there was an interview with Edward James almost talking about how when Sonny first went, he's going to just come in and be familiar with him and come in as often. This is my space. And he said that's really their relationship when it started, that they were a little adversarial because Don Johnson was used a certain way, and Eddie was not going to have it. So
he was the head honcho. He was the head honcho of the show.
But look how far
we posted
look how
that.
far they came.
Right?
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
We posted
look
that.
how far they look how far they came. Look how far they came. They could he can make fun of him right to his face.
Anyway, we'd like to close out this section by saying thank you to Marina from the Vice and Easy podcast for joining us for the season 2 recap.
It was fun.
This is very
Your
fun.
podcast is totally awesome. You're ahead of us, so I don't want to listen too much ahead of time because I don't want to steal your thoughts and ideas and for mine. So I want to keep it fresh, but I still listen.
I still listen to you guys.
So
thank you so much.
Thank you again. So if you want to hang out and listen to how we go, you're more than welcome to. It's Nerd's Chalkboard of Wisdom, where we hope to inspire, enlighten, or make you snicker a little. In both the world of Miami Vice and our current world at large, we encountered plenty of challenges we worked to overcome. In the interest of creating a family-friendly atmosphere through the show and our social media, we'd like to offer some parting thoughts, a quote, phrase, or words of encouragement, or a funny quip to you, our listeners, because without you, our friends, we'd be talking to ourselves. And we say friends because that's what we consider all of you who follow our show and social media. And this episode's quote is from an unnamed source. Life is like looking for your phone. Most of the time, it's in your hand. We encourage everyone listening to be a positive force, not only in your life, but others as well. It's contagious and can make our world a better place.
And with that, we'd like to bring this episode of Vice of Miami podcast to a close. If you like our show, and we hope that you do, please help spread the word. We can be found on Instagram and Facebook at Vice of Miami Podcast, and YouTube, just search for Vice of Miami. Tell a friend and post this and other episodes on your social media and tag us at Vice of Miami Podcast so we can see it. And if you can, please rate and review the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your podcast platform of choice. This helps us out immensely. It only takes a few moments and would mean the world to us. It's listeners like you who make what we do here worth it. Many thanks to everyone who have liked, commented, or reviewed our shows. So we'll catch you next time on the Vice of Miami podcast on show 49, covering the first episode of season 3, When Irish Eyes Are Smiling. Now...
Well, what do you say we call it a day, pal?